Yo, what's up YouTube? Today, we've got a super interesting best of list for you. Games that have spent the most money in their production. And the truth is, we've had quite a few surprises putting this list together. But before getting down to it, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss out on anything. Okay, so first, some ground rules. The games that have made it onto the list are here because we know the cost from the company's financial records. All of the costs are initial costs, not over time through DLCs and so on. If there's a game that you think costs more, then you're probably right. But we're gonna stick with the ones that we have solid numbers for. So games like The Last of Us Part 2 aren't on the list because there's nothing official in terms of the numbers. Or Minecraft, because we know that the current investment is more than 200 million, but that's over time and not the initial cost of production. So boring bit out of the way, and now, time for the 7 games with the highest cost of production in history. Our adolescent platonic love, Lara Croft. This game spent $135 million in its production. More precisely, creating the game cost $100 million to Eidos Montreal and $35 million was invested into the promotion of the game. A great figure for a game that in its first year sold more than 4 million copies. I think it's fair to say it wasn't the success that they wanted it to be, but still, they said they were super happy.
I know that it's hard to believe.
Here, we're not talking about the recent remake, but about the original game released in 1997. You may wonder, how did the game from that year have such high costs if it's so different in terms of graphics from anything we see today? Well, Square had to spend $45 million for the development and $100 million just for marketing. Without a doubt, one of the biggest campaigns in terms of budget in the history of video games. But Square needed the whole world to see how wonderful a game they've created. And that's why, to this day, there are still so many who consider this to be the best Final Fantasy in history. What do you think? Do you prefer this one? Or do you prefer the remake? When it was released in 2011, Star Wars The Old Republic could say that it was the most expensive video game ever produced. BioWare had to put $200 million into the production of the game and had more than 800 people working on it for 6 years. In addition, they also had to hire about 1,000 voice actors to record lines who would then give life to almost 4,000 characters in-game. Something that surely increased the budget. To this day, many of us consider this the best game the franchise has ever made, and we'll be hoping for something very similar in the near future. One of the biggest franchises in gaming has one of the most expensive games to develop. Modern Warfare 2 is the game that literally cost Activision the most. A lot of gamers even started their Call of Duty relationship with this version of the game, and that is to be expected, seeing as Activision spent about $200 million in marketing and only $50 million in production and development costs. Its multiplayer was one of the best in memory, and even with the controversy it had around the mission No Russian, in which you had to kill civilians in a Russian airport, it still caused sales to skyrocket, and just on the first weekend alone, the game sold 4 million units. There is literally no list that we can make that does not include Grand Theft Auto 5. It is the omnipresent god of video games. In this case, Rockstar had to spend about $265 million to work on the lives and missions of Franklin, Trevor, and Michael. But hey, the people of Rockstar did not suffer for spending that money, because on the first day alone, yes, on its first day, the game generated $800 million in sales, and hours later, it became the fastest video game in history to generate $1 billion. Oh, and all this without counting the multiplayer mode that continues to this day and is already 7 years old. In 2018, it was announced that the game already had sold 90 million copies and earned more than $6 billion, so that is roughly a profit of 25 times higher than the initial cost of development, which places Grand Theft Auto 5 as the most profitable entertainment product in history. Now we start with the really crazy stuff. And the first is that the production of Destiny cost $140 million, and $360 million more went directly to marketing and promotion. How on earth can you spend up to $500 million in the production of a game? When put into perspective, high-budget Hollywood movies such as Avengers Endgame cost $365 million to produce. During the first 5 days, the game generated $325 million, and over the years, it certainly recovered that investment and earned way more. So I don't think we need to worry about them. Yes, The next installment of the well-known saga has a budget of $500 million. 343 Industries is betting hard on its next great game, and not for nothing. It's undoubtedly the flagship game of Xbox, and so many people are dying to play it. That investment, $500 million, will be tiny when the game sees the light of day and all the fans buy it. But we have to say it, I mean, $500 million of budget for this? All jokes aside, however, the game is one of the most anticipated games ever, and it seems that it will be coming to our next-gen consoles in 2021. Who wants to control the new Master Chief? Trying to get an insight into Red Dead Redemption 2 is a fool's errand. It's difficult to give an exact figure on the budget of this ambitious game, and that's just because it was developed by multiple studios throughout the world and had more than 3,000 people working on it. At least that's what we see in the credits of the game. Regardless of all the salaries that they had to pay, it was definitely money well spent because the game generated $725 million just in the first weekend. How amazing is it for Rockstar Games to know that even though they need to invest a lot of money into a game, they'll probably earn it back in less than a week. Adventures in the American Wild West have never generated so many millions. And that's all, folks. But tell us, what do you think of these budgets? Does the video game industry seem to be losing its mind with these high production costs? Will the bubble burst soon? Let us know how many of these games you've played throughout your gaming life and which one you like the most. Thanks for watching, guys, and catch you on the next one. Adios.